Guild Wars 2, one of the most beloved MMOs out there, is known for its dynamic events, beautiful world, and constantly evolving story. But what about the old world? Those areas we will first explore when we start out our journey in Tyria. Today we are diving into a big question. Should ArenaNet revamp the old world? I'm talking about zones, progression systems, and how they tie into the expansions. Is it time for a major overhaul? Let's break it down. The old world is the foundation of Guild Wars 2. From the charming towns of Queensdale to the rugged Shiver Peak Mountains, these zones hold a lot of nostalgia for veteran players, and they still have a lot of charm. The beauty of these zones is in the dynamic events that replace traditional quests and how they give a sense of living, breathing world. You can jump into any zone and find something happening. The old world also sets the stage for some of the most iconic moments in the game's story, whether you're protecting your home as a Jar in Plains of Ashford, uncovering the mysteries of Medical Province as an Asura, or helping to restore peace as a Sylvari. These zones tell the foundational story of your race, your people, your personal journey. Let's be honest, over time, the old world has become a bit outdated. The core problem lies in progression. As soon as you hit level 80, the old zones seem almost irrelevant. Sure, they're beautiful, but they don't offer the same rewards or sense of progression that the expansions do. And when you're at max level, the content doesn't scale well enough to keep players interested. Take World vs. World as an example. While it offers great endgame PvP content, once you reach level 80, there's little incentive to revisit old zones as soon as you start playing World vs. World, for example. The old world feels more like a museum. Amazing to look at, but not very engaging for seasoned players. And speaking of progression, the old zones don't have the same engagement systems that came with the expansions. They lack meta events, which are a game changer in longevity. There's also a significant difference in how the new expansion zones are structured, with more streamlined content and engaging mechanics. So what would a revamp actually look like? Imagine revisiting those iconic zones from the base game, but with all the polish and features of the newer expansions. For example, world bosses would be changed to be more like a meta event and get better rewards, so that the core game would not only include exploration, but also some incentive to go back. This alone would make the world feel more cohesive and less like an outdated relic of the past. To be completely honest, I would go so far to say that even some expansion content, such as part of fire maps or living world maps such as Corner, need a major rework too, in terms of longevity. So the core game mostly has world bosses, and those are not very rewarding at all. Yes, there might be some achievements bound to them, or you can get some nice unidentified gear from them, but it's not very worth doing most of the time. So in my opinion, we need to update not only the rewards of them, but of course, if you can do also how they are played. But if you can't update it in that much of a big matter, I think just updating the rewards can be a very valid solution as well. Updating the lackluster rewards in the core part of Tyria for the world bosses would probably fix a lot of those issues, because people would go back and it would feel way more alive than it currently is. So now let's talk about two solutions that I come up with here. So the first one would be to add some kind of overarching currency for every single world boss. So when you kill a world boss, you get a currency that you then can exchange for stuff that is very valuable. It might be a count bound, it might be something that just gives you gold. I think that would be great to just make world bosses a bit more interesting. However, this is not a very good solution in my opinion. It's just a very band-aid fix, because it will clutter and bloat the currencies that we already have, which is way too many in my opinion. So I think this is just a fix to make it more rewarding, but it's not really fixing the underlying issues that are coming up with that. My better option would be a really easy way to fix it, and it's a really good option in my opinion, would be to do something like the dungeon frequent achievement style for world bosses. That means that you have an achievement that gives you liquid gold, maybe some kind of other things bound to it as well, whenever you complete a certain number of world bosses. It has to be a certain different number of world bosses, so you can only farm, for example, the fire elemental every day. No, you have to do maybe 8, maybe 10, something like that, different world bosses, and whenever you complete them, you actually get some kind of reward. That would be really good, because people then would be incentivized to go for different world bosses, and you can actually farm them 24/7, because this achievement is repeatable. Whenever you want to do it, you can infinitely do it. I think that would be a really good way to incentivize people to go back to old content without really having to implement a lot of features that will support this. I think that's a really good idea. And let's talk dynamic events. While they were groundbreaking back in 2012, some events in the old world feel repetitive or too easy. What if ArenaNet could update these events, adding new layers of complexity or story beats that tie into the larger world of Tyria today? Imagine the More Than Rust storyline from Heart of Thorns blending into old zones, with events tied to the aftermath of the Elder Dragon's influence. That would make those old areas feel more integrated into the game's ongoing narrative. Also, don't forget about visual updates. Even though the world is gorgeous, some areas could definitely use a graphical overhaul, especially in some of the older zones. The art team did wonders in areas like Domain of Istar, in Path of Fire, and Auric Base in Heart of Thorns. There's potential to bring that same level of love and detail to the older regions. Now, here's the big question. Is a revamp even necessary? Guild Wars 2 has always been known for its living world, where ArenaNet has focused on consistently updating the game with new content. But at the same time, the old world feels a bit like an aftercast in comparison. Aren't there better things ArenaNet could do with its resources? The expansions bring such depth and excitement that players love exploring them. But at the same time, the old world feels disconnected from the current story. A revamp could bring a sense of continuity across Tyria, especially as the Elder Dragons and new threats impact the world in ways that could ripple through the older zones. And I'm not talking about a small dynamic event, more like a full-scale meta event. However, revamping the old world isn't a small task. It would require a lot of time, resources, and might draw attention away from new content and future expansions. ArenaNet would need to carefully balance its focus between new content and fixing the old, which could be a huge challenge. So, should ArenaNet revamp the old world? In my opinion, yes, but it needs to be done carefully. A full revamp could breathe new life into these zones, making them feel relevant again for level 80 players and integrate into the current story. But it's not something that should take priority over new content, especially with the ongoing updates and expansion in the game. A middle ground approach, like revisiting key zones with light updates and integrating them into the larger world events, could make the world feel fresh without derailing future plans. Everything I just said is of course not only meant with regard to maps, but also in regard to rewards and maybe even progression, such as masteries. What do you think though? Do you miss the old world and want to see it update, or do you feel like it's better to leave it in the past and focus on new content? Let me know in the comments. If you want to know more about my prediction and my assessment of the current situation of ArenaNet and what they are actually working on, and why they have so limited amount of resources put into Guild Wars 2 at the moment, be sure to check out this video. And if you enjoyed the discussion, be sure to like, subscribe and hit that bell for more Guild Wars 2 content. Thanks a lot for watching, thanks for all my support on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon. Thanks Timo, thanks Malas. I'll catch you in the next one.